Welcome back to Car Mechanic Simulator 2021. Today we're working on the car that we got from the scrapyard, which is the 1956 Salem 1500 XL. And yes, it's in a bit of a rough shape. This cost us £5,032 from the scrapyard, as seen in the previous episode. And it's seen better days, admittedly, but this is one of the vehicles I've been really looking forward to working on. Just because of the shape, the look, it's just one of those iconic American cars. So, as always, start with taking it all out. Still refuse to get the trophy for spilling oil, as of yet. So we'll take the engine out first, get all that sorted, and then we will look at the suspension, bodywork, and obviously we've got to stick it around the racetrack and see where it comes on the top speed and leaderboard, as well as the race time leaderboard. I'm struggling with words for some reason. First of all, we've got to try and disconnect anything that's going to stop the engine leaving, so we need to take out the drive shaft. That's the first job. Some rusty bolts getting in the way first. And of course, we have to take off the gearbox. No starter motor currently in place, that's a bonus. And we should be good to go. There's no exhaust by the looks of things, so even better. Me making silly mistakes, forgetting to lower the vehicle down before trying to take the engine out. I'm not sure how that would work otherwise. And we can't put an engine in when there's already an engine in place. We're getting there though. So that's the engine out. There isn't actually much to this guy, surprising how little there are, especially when it comes to suspension as well. But the V8 engine we have doesn't have many parts actually there. So this is going to be a quick strip down because there isn't anything there. It's quite surprising. We haven't mentioned what engine we're looking at actually. So the engine this has is a V8 2-carb 0HV engine. Again, you probably can't tell that looking at it currently. I guarantee the pistons are no good either. Yep, they're not. Nothing's going to be any good. What we'll do is we'll fix what we can, as always, buy what we have to, and go from there. But the idea is to get this back to factory standard before we go too far. And that's the plan for today. So we'll just turn this round and we can get to the crankshaft and the rest of the pistons. That's coming out nicely. There we go. And we'll go off in a second and fix everything. Oh, before we do that, let's take off the clutch release bearing, the clutch pressure plate. I'm getting ahead of myself. Always forget these parts. The clutch plate and the flywheel, get those off. Crankshaft can now come off, and then the engine block after the camshaft. Forgot about the camshaft hidden behind the back there. Okay, we'll go off, fix what we can, back in a second. There we are. We are going to speed up the rebuild. One, because it's a V8, so there's little tiddly bits to be annoying as well. But on top of that, we actually didn't buy anything in advance. So just to get past some of that, we're going to speed up a little bit. I'm not going to talk through this, so if you want to see this, the rebuild, have a look. Otherwise, skip a couple of minutes ahead, and we'll be back. So we're nearly done now. We're just putting on the air filter lid. There we go. Nicely done. The engine is looking really nice. And again, we fast forward through the engine build, some because they're a bit tedious when you've got all the little push rods to put back in place. And I'm trying to keep the videos to around half an hour, no longer, so I've got to speed bits up to make that work. I don't think you guys will be too happy watching for a very long time. So we're actually overspent on some parts. Some of these we got from our warehouse thinking they would fit, they obviously didn't. But others, like the push rods, we actually overspent, we bought too many. Not sure how I made that mistake, but somehow I did. We're actually looking, I think we have a flywheel in storage, that's why we're here. So we're going to go down and have a look at our gearbox. We've got a clutch plate, but we don't need one. But we also couldn't fix the gearbox, so we can take that one out as well. But I thought we may have a flywheel in the warehouse. We don't, unfortunately. Is there anything else I can use? No, I don't think so. So we will have to buy the flywheel, annoyingly. Right, get it located, there we go, and then we can get it on a shopping list and we can buy one. I don't know what made me think I had one in stock, but I thought I had. The flywheel in place. Clutch plate, we've already seen we've got one ready to go. Perfect. The pressure plate, haven't replaced that yet. Let's take it off. We need to add that to a shopping list and buy one as well. I don't know what happened when I was really disorganised with buying things. Normally, I buy everything once everything's fixed. Whatever's left over, I buy. But I think because this was missing so many parts, and I couldn't quite remember what we needed in certain places, I just did it as I went instead. Sometimes it's quite difficult to remember exactly what you need. There's some things like this kind of area that you know exactly what's going to be needed to connect the gearbox to, but there's other bits that you just think, I don't really know. And this is a big old engine for us. But there we go. I believe that is the engine complete. And it looks really nice. So we're going to move on to stripping the vehicle now. We're going to take all the suspension out and we're going to take all the bodywork off. We're going to speed through dismantling, mainly to save a bit of time on the video. But also, I'm not going to speak for it. I'll let you watch it. And we'll come back once we've got everything sorted. Perfect. So light coming out, last fender. It's surprising how little this vehicle has in terms of suspension. I was expecting to have a lot more than it does. While we're here, the only other thing in the engine bay we'll take out is the actual fuse box and two fuses and the fuse box. They can go and we can start from scratch there. Before we go and fix everything, we're going to quickly weld it. It's surprising how good this looks once it's been welded. So £1,300 and the welding can take place. It's a really nice baby blue, to be fair. Right, we're going to go off, fix all the parts, buy what we need to buy, and we'll see you in a second. There we go. So we've done what we needed to do in terms of fixing and buying. It's a very nice colour, but I probably won't keep it like that. I have an idea what colour I kind of want it to be, but we'll see what happens. So suspension time, we need to put it all back in place. A lot of it, what we did have, couldn't really be fixed. Some could, but not all of it. So we had to buy quite a bit. But as I say, the actual makeup of the suspension is quite basic compared to what a lot of cars we've done previously. There's not very many parts, which surprised me. something so heavy and built the way it is. I expected more, but it is quite old. 1956 this car is from. So that probably would explain how basic some of the suspension is, to be fair. As we put on the drum brake cylinder. And then we can do the brake shoes. And then the brake drum. And then the wheel is ready to go on. And we're ready. Is there anything we've missed? Yes, rubber bushing. The famous rubber bushings that cause us a headache every time. There we go. We've got some suspension still to go on. Rear shock absorber. We're missing a rubber bushing down the far side as well, aren't we? There we go. That one is done. So I think the wheel is now safe to go back on. So we've gone for the same tyres it had previously. And same rims. So I'm not changing anything when we do a factory rebuild. It's all the same as it should be. Got the leaf spring now going back on. Can't forget the rubber bushings this time. The spring plate. And then we've got the U-bolts. They're going on perfectly. Okay. Rubber bushings, can't forget these this time. We haven't. Oh, why have I not bought those? I must have completely miscalculated. Unless maybe it was missing one of the leaf springs. That could be why I didn't buy them. Thinking about it. We do also need a fuel tank, so we'll buy that while we're there. Now, I always make a mistake with the fuel tank. We actually need to buy the fuel filter. And I never do it. And on PS4, this can be a bit annoying to try and search. There we go. I've managed to get rid of some of what I was searching for when it comes to fuel tank and actually find the fuel filter. Not fuel filter, sorry, fuel pump. I kind of knew what I meant. So it just saves me a bit of time going back into the shop once we've finished doing everything else. Right, back to what we were doing. Rubber bushings, they can go back on. Yep, it's rear shocked. As I say, it's quite a basic basic rear suspension system. But it does save us a bit of time, I suppose, making it so basic. Fuel tank go back in. And if we can get the angle, we should be able to get the fuel pump. Yes, there we go. And then the wheel hub. And the rear drive axle. And we've got the drum cylinder. Drum shoes. The brake shoes. We haven't replaced them. Okay, maybe it was missing it. There's a few things I just forget about. If we haven't taken it off, it's easy to forget what you've got and what you haven't. So the brake drum, again, we haven't got one of those. So we need to put that back on. There we go. Not too expensive either, which is not too bad. It's going to be interesting to see how much we actually spend on this in the end. There we go. And that is the rear suspension done. So now we start with this in the front suspension. And again, pretty basic. We put in the suspension cross member first. Got the rubber bushings to put in place as well. Can't forget these things. I'm not searching for hours again because I'm missing one. I'm refusing to do that ever again if I can help it. And then we've got the steering rack, the inner tie rod. Okay, this left hand side is getting there. Now we can do the outer tie rod. We've got the bottom suspension arm. And then we've got our big shock absorbers here, the double wishbones. We can use the front end link as well to put that in place. Perfect. And then we've got the upper suspension arm. And then I think the wheel can basically go back on now. I think we're done this side. Front wheel hub. Brake disc ventilated. There we go. Yeah, we're basically done on the left hand side now. That's what I say, it's not much to put it back together. A lot less than I was expecting. And the wheel can now go back. Nicely done. So now we need to look at the front right, and once this is all in place, we'll put the engine back, and we should be making really good headway. Rubber bushings, first things first, can't forget these. We'll not miss these again. And then we can do the inner tie rod. I think that's everything there. We've got front steering knuckle, and that should give us the bottom suspension arm. Everything's kind of showing up now, isn't it? So we've got the outer tie rod put in place, there we go, and then we've got the double wishbone shock absorber as well. And then we've got the sway bar, front end link. And then we've got the upper suspension arm. We don't have an upper suspension arm, okay. Surprised at that, I thought we'd have one, but we don't, strangely. I don't know why I've not got one. It's on our list, but well, I've just put it on our list to be fair. Don't know why I didn't actually have one. Again, unless it was missing it, I can't remember. We took everything off. There we go. That's in place. Slight little things that could have saved time, but there we go. So front wheel hub. Bearings in place. Hubcap. We haven't got a new one, so we need to buy one of those. This is why I try and get ahead in what I'm buying, just to save a little bit of time. Obviously, this car hasn't gone to plan in terms of getting ahead like that. But the brake disc is in place, brake pads, brake cylinder, brand new there. And then we've got the wheel itself. And then we should be able to lower this down now, I think, about that stage. We are indeed. Okay, so the engine can now go back in place. There we go, our V8 2-carb. And that is good to go. So if we lift it up again, we can put the gearbox and everything on and connect everything up that way. It is a very good looking vehicle. And I'm not really into my vehicles, but actually I think this is a really nice one. And it's one I've been really looking forward to, just because the shape, more than anything else, it just gave me that feeling that I want to do this vehicle. I've got to buy a few more parts, exhaust parts, starter motor needs buying, because we don't have one. Let's just try and get a view on some of the other exhausts. Little mufflers, and then we've got the rear mufflers. So there's a few things to buy. Starters in the electrical section, should have remembered that. So we've got 2 of each exhausts, and again these weren't on it, I've just got rid of the starter motor off their list as well. Always easily done when you're not following the list one at a time. Maybe, I don't know if it's not at the start, is it? No. We're going to have to quickly go through the list of electronics, I think, to find this starter motor. That might actually be quicker than us. No, we've got it in there. It's just, starter motor is one of those weird ones to find. The searching in the shop is a really weird one to do on the new PlayStation. It just takes time, but we've done it. It's fine. Okay. All the exhaust. And that's all in place. Here we go. Rear mufflers now going on. And then I think it's just engine bay now. All the underneath is done. I believe that is it. All nice, shiny and new. That's the important part. Look at those exhausts. Okay, so engine bay to do. And in the engine bay, we've got the engine already back in, so it's all the perishables, so all the things that hold your liquid. We need a fuse box, battery I would have suggested as well. I don't think we've got one. There we go, we've got to highlight these up so we can go and buy them. There's a radiator actually as well, I didn't actually think about that. Needs a radiator. The fuse box will need sorting out as well. I think the one we took out, yeah, it's too far gone to be able to fix, unfortunately. But we have got one here. The reason we're doing the fuse box first is because after we put the fuse box in, we're going to need to buy all the fuses. I can never remember which ones we need, so we actually have to highlight them up. Just make my life a little bit easier. Okay, I think that's all of them. Let's go and buy these now. This is where I can delete stuff off my list accidentally if I'm not careful. So a bit of concentration needed. Ignore some of the numbers because I think I've put more than one on when I didn't need to. Okay, and just the relays now. So we can go back in place. Then we can buy the cover for the fuse box. And we're kind of there. I think the other thing we do need is still the battery. That's quite a major thing to get the vehicle to do anything. As we finish off the fuses. Last relay. So the lid to the fuse box we can now go and buy. There we go. While we're here, we might as well buy the reservoirs. So power steering one first. Brake servo. We also need the radiator. And the windshield water reservoir. Windshield washer reservoir, I should say. Okay, so all them can go back in place now. So fuse box is done. So it's very simple, the engine bay, in terms of what's actually inside it. There's no ECU, as it's not young enough, I should say, to have an ECU. It's your basic bog standard V8 pure horsepower grunt engine. So we just need to go and buy a battery, if we don't have one. There we go. And we can now fill everything up with liquids. Might as well put the liquids in while we're here. Now while we're filling the liquids, I'm just going to talk about something else quickly. So we are going to go off and paint the car. The original plan that I had in my mind of what I wanted this to look like didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. I had to buy, or I did end up buying as well, the 2 remaining upgrades for the paint shop to see if I can get my idea to work. And they didn't work, annoyingly. So we are going to spend £15,000 on paint shop upgrades that I actually didn't need in the end, but we've got them now for going forward, so we can play a bit more with colours. And as I say, my boy is going to pick some of the colours, some of the cars coming up. So expect some weird and wacky and wonderful colours eventually, and I'll try and stay sensible to what I like. I don't know, I've just got a thing with colours and cars. They have to be certain, normal colours in theory. But yeah, we do. So the money, when you see the money going up and down and stuff at the minute, the final amounts we discuss at the end of the video will take into account the £15,000 we spent on paint shop upgrades, so it won't be included in obviously profit and all that for this vehicle. I've taken that in advance. So we're going to go off, put all the body parts back on, do all that stuff, and here we are, a painted, finished vehicle. Now I went for black. I was umming and ahhing. I was going to go for a grey, but I kind of felt a black was really nice. It suited it really nicely when it was in the paint shop. It's not a pure black. There's a slight tint to it. My plan originally was the wording of Salem on the back that we just went past was meant to be silver or white, and I couldn't make it happen, unfortunately. But the inside looks really nice, and that is the Salem 1500 XL done. So, time for the lap. Now, I will say straight away, this is our fastest lap we're going on to now. This is our second lap of the 5, which kind of explains a lot. I just couldn't do this lap again afterwards, and you'll see why as we go round. The steering is horrendous, and this is after we have aligned the wheels and everything else. It's that basic shock absorbers and basic suspension is making driving horrible. I just can't, every time you turn at any kind of speed, the car wants to veer off. So it wasn't the best vehicle for going round the track, which I'm not surprised. It's not designed for that, is it? It's designed for carrying stuff to and fro. But I'm blaming the suspension. So when we come to do our performance version of this, after we've done all the stars versions, we're going to have to play with that suspension and see if we can do anything with it to make it better. Or maybe change tyres. I don't know, we've got to find a way to make this vehicle better, because I think it deserves more than we did. Even here, this is our fastest lap. We missed the corner because of the braking and the suspension. We still managed to make it round on the outside of the barrier. And like I say, this is our fastest lap. This is surprising considering the amount of mistakes we made, which wasn't all my fault. I will put some of the blame onto the vehicle, and my times only got worse after this one. And the opening lap of 2:22 is obviously standing start, so it's always going to be slower. But every lap after this one got worse. So we'll take. This is our fastest lap. This is the one that goes on the leaderboard. So only a few more corners coming up now. Again, you're going to see a struggle to control this. Braking as well. Back end slides every time. 2 corners to go. Trying to get it round. One more corner, and as we approach the home straight, we actually do a 1:59.788, and amazingly, for a car that's horrendous to drive, gives us 3rd place on our track leaderboard, which I'm amazed by. Now, something more suited to this vehicle, the pure V8 2-carb engine at its best, top speed, and this is a straight line, so we don't have to turn. In fact, I'm not even touching the steering wheel as my rules go, so this is pure power. Can we beat any of the other cars on the leaderboard? We come 3rd place on the track, and as we are getting to the end of the top speed run, we are going to hit I may have preempted it a little bit. We're going to hit 243 kilometers per hour, which is 150.993 miles per hour. And amazingly, we put the Salem XL #1 on the top speed leaderboard. How incredible is that? This workhorse is 3rd around the track and 1st on the top speed. I'm looking forward to doing the next episode of the actual leaderboards themselves, because it's definitely shaking things up a lot. Now, look at that engine. It just gleams in there. So we'll go through numbers now. We actually spent £18,415 doing this vehicle up, including the buying price of £5,032. That means a total cost of £23,447. And as you can see, everything is 100%. This is back to basics, factory settings, Salem 1500 XL. We are selling this for £67,163, which will give us a profit of £43,716. That's a nice little profit. So it wasn't too difficult to rebuild. I'm looking forward to starting up. I'm looking forward to doing a performance version. It's a shame I couldn't quite get the look the way I wanted it, but I think we did really well, and a decent profit to boot. So that is it. We have rebuilt the 1956 Salem 1500 XL back to factory standard. Now, as we finish off the episode, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone who's watched the series so far. If you are enjoying it, or any content on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and drop a like on the video. It does really help. These videos also go live on Facebook at the same time as they do on YouTube, but just the rebuild episodes. There'll be more and more to come. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again very soon.